Thank you for tuning in to another podcast of The Thirsty Deer.
No bear. A few deer. One or two grouse. A couple birds. And a whole lot of cold. The only warmth I have are these little morsels.
As you can see, it was pretty darn cold where I was hunting bear the first day in Pennsylvania. We got about 10 inches of snow that weekend before the season started. And the first night of bear season, we got about another 4 inches. Actually, one guy I was hunting bear with, he was going home on 80 and had to turn around because there was a bad accident. So he actually got to hunt another day because of it. But this was the first day of deer season you're seeing right here. The snow did stick around. It was kind of nice because at that point it was off the trees and the brush. That's my dad walking out there in front of me. He had a stand maybe 200 yards away from me on this ridge, and that's a view from the stand I was at. Right there where that red circle is, the three doe you're about to see came right up from under there. I was going to film them, but they were right on top of me. And I didn't want to spook them. I didn't want them snorting and blowing all down through the hollow. So I waited till they got behind me quite a ways before I maneuvered the camera around to get this shot over my left shoulder as they walked away. It was just 2 older doe and a yearling. Actually, when I walked into my stand that morning, it was so loud and crunchy the snow was, I actually spooked about 4 or 5 deer that were, 30 yards from the stand down into the hollow, and I think 3 of these deer here were actually part of that 5, and I think they just circled their way back around. I did see a 4th deer later that you'll see coming up here. But the next doe you're going to see, I saw that doe I think around 10:15 or so. As it turned out, my dad showed up to my stand at about 10:45, and we think he kicked that over to me. But anyways, my dad came over to my stand at about 10:45, and this ridge we were at, he walked out down this ridge and just kind of looped the ridge around the outer edge and walked it back to me. And I didn't have the camera on because if he would have kicked any deer up, they would have been moving. So I obviously couldn't film and shoot at the same time a moving deer. But anyways, he made his way around this ridge. That's that deer right there that we think he spooked out or kicked out when he got out of his stand to come over to me. But anyways, after he got done walking this ridge back to my stand, he offered to babysit my camera up in my stand because I was getting cold and I wanted to get down and take a quick walk. So he climbed up into my stand, and I got down and took a walk out to the end of this ridge. And at the end of this ridge, there's another tree stand that I actually climbed up in, and I sat there for maybe 15 minutes. But anyway, I'm watching this far ridge out of this tree stand, and I'm sitting there and I'm wondering, man, at this distance, how big are these deer going to look? And just then I see 2 dots moving. So I get my scope up and I crank it up to 7, and they're still real tiny. So I've got a Weaver Grand Slam, and it's a 3 to 10 power scope. So I cranked it up to 10, and I'm looking and trying to put horns on any of these deer over on this far ridge. And I actually did, and it was this buck here, and I filmed him in bear season. At the time I was filming him in bear season, I didn't know he was a buck. It wasn't until I got home and could watch it on a bigger screen and zoom the video in to see that he did have horns. But anyways, I saw this deer on the far ridge, and he was chasing does, checking does, running them up and down this ridge, and that's actually the ridge you'll see there, right in about the center of that screen. That's where he was. And the shot was about 325 yards, and I took it And I mean, deer just exploded off that entire ridge after I shot. They were heading in all different directions, so I lost the deer. I wasn't sure where he was at, so I went back and got my dad, and he sat in that stand. And I got down and walked over on that far ridge to see if I could pick up a blood trail, which I did. And as you can see, at the end of the blood trail, he was laying, and it was actually funny. Up at this camp, we have the big joke is that whenever you shoot a deer on a ridge, it always runs down in this big hollow we have. I don't know how we get deer out of there, or how we would get deer out of there if we didn't have some guys up there with ATVs, because it's just nuts. But anyways, this deer, actually it worked out pretty nice because we shot him on a far ridge. He ran down through the hollow and ran right up to the ridge where my tree stand was, and that's where he ended up, right there. And that, where he's laying right now, that's not 20 yards from where I videoed him on the first day of bear season. But I'll be honest, the shot, he probably, like I said, he ran about 325 yards. The shot wasn't the best shot. I mean, I don't want to say it was a lucky shot, but as much as it was a lucky, like the bullet fragmented the way it did, because it hit bone and it angled the bullet right up into his liver. And when I got him out, I mean, his liver was just jelly, just a jellied mess. But about 50 yards away, there's that tree stand. And my dad decided to climb up in it. And that's why I didn't give a commentary or, talk about the deer out in the field there, because he was still hunting, and out of respect for him, I wasn't going to be out there on the ridge and be carrying on to the camera. But that's the deer. It was an 8-point, about a 15.5-inch inside spread. I've killed bigger, but man, I was tickled to death with him. Thank you for tuning in to Thirsty Deer. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in again. Thanks.